Hi there, this is Dan Montgomery, President of the Illinois Federation of Teachers. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate you being on the first ever live town hall IFT WebEx. I'm here in our Springfield Legislative Office with Karen Lewis, the Executive Vice President of the IFT, and she's President of the Chicago Teachers Union as well. And we wanted to talk to you tonight because of some very important legislative attacks that have arisen recently and that have very significant impact potentially for all of us in education in Illinois. And the purpose of tonight's call is to give you background and information about what's happening, what we think might happen this week in Springfield, to tell you about what we've been doing in the IFT to fight for our rights, and also to ask you to do some more actions this week to support our cause. So before we go any further, I do want to say, and I'll say it a few times throughout the call, that the best way for you to get up-to-date information is to go to the IFT website, which is www.ift-aft.org. And on that website, if you go to the upper right-hand corner, it says IFT Spotlight, and you can go to the action page. And that's where you will be taken to a page that you can find your own legislators, your state rep, your state senator, their contact information. And we really want to make sure that you call starting tomorrow, Monday. It's a big day to go back to work in the new year, and we really need everyone to be talking about these issues in their schools, in their workplaces, making sure that your colleagues to your right and to your left are doing the same thing, going online, making phone calls to legislators, and sending email alerts. So let me talk a little bit about what's facing us and why we're really here. A few weeks ago, some education so-called reform groups came into Illinois, and they have put together a bill. They're calling it Performance Counts. And that bill has not yet been introduced into the legislature, but there's a real possibility that as early as tomorrow that bill could be moved through the state house. That bill does many things. The most dramatic thing that bill would do would be to take away our bargaining rights. Right now, as you guys know, we have the right to collectively bargain in education in Illinois. If that bill were to pass as it's proposed, it would change the bargaining landscape significantly. We would, as unions, you could engage in some bargaining with your employer, but ultimately, the way the law is written, your employer would be able to decide what proposals they want to accept, and they would be able to impose their own proposals. So there's different parts to the bill. There would be some fact-finding and some timelines. But at the end of the day, at the end of negotiations, your employer could say, we're going to pick our own proposals and impose every one of them. And they also, you wouldn't really have a right to strike on that. You would need the school board to vote a 2/3 majority to allow a strike. And I can't think of a school board in Illinois that would be willing to do that. So this collective bargaining part of the bill is very safe to say it would effectively end our ability to bargain contracts. All the good things we've done for kids, think about all the best things you've been able to bargain in your contracts in your districts. Now, I would say impossible under this proposal. I also want to remind you to, during this phone call, if at any time you have a question, we're going to take some live questions. All you have to do is push 9. Push the number 9, and you can ask your question. And we'll get to some live questions from you guys a little bit later down after we give you some more information. There are some other very dramatic things in this legislation. 2 things that come to mind have to do with seniority rights and tenure rights. Under this proposed legislation, if a district were to lay off teachers for any reason and subsequently recall teachers, seniority would not be a factor or would be a minor factor at best. performance evaluations, your evaluations done by administrators, would be the primary, most important factor in determining which of us would be risked or let go and who would have any kind of recall rights. That's a dramatic change in Illinois, where right now the law guarantees some seniority rights. There are other things in this proposal about streamlining teacher dismissal. It would essentially allow a district, if you had an unsatisfactory evaluation twice in a 5-year period, you would lose your teaching license. Not just your job, but the ability to have a career in Illinois education. And districts would have the ability to return you to probationary status, effectively ending tenure. And there are some other things. But those are really, I think, the lowlights of this bill as presented. It's sponsored by some groups you may have heard of, Advance Illinois. There's an outside group from outside Illinois called Stand for Children, the Illinois Business Roundtable, and John Lewis's favorite, the Commercial Club of the City of Chicago, right? They also are behind this. Now, there's other things happening in Illinois in the legislature. There's a very significant constitutional amendment proposal out there right now called TABOR. I'll talk about that in just a minute. I want to welcome anyone who's new on the phone call. We started a few minutes ago. We're going to keep going. The first ever IFT WebEx Town Hall conference call. We're live here in Springfield, Karen Lewis and me, Dan Montgomery. And if you have a question, you can push 9, and that will afford you the ability to ask questions. We'll get to those a little bit later. I also want to remind everybody, if you have to leave before this conversation is done, that you need to go to the IFT website, ift-afc.org, and we're asking all our members to call their legislators tomorrow, Monday. If you can't do it Monday, do it Tuesday. Do it frequent. Do it like you vote, often and early enough. And you have to. We really need you to make sure your colleagues. This has to be talked about at the lunch table. It's got to be talked about in your classrooms, your faculty meetings. We need you to carry the weight on this to get the word to the legislators. What's the word? Well, there's a few of them. One is do not touch collective bargaining. We have an excellent system right now in Illinois. Last year in Illinois, there were 2 strikes total, 2 teacher strikes. And we have got, the bargaining law went into effect in 1985, and it's been very effective. Before the bargaining bill passed in 85, there were 30, 20, 40 strikes sometimes a year in Illinois. That's not the case now. The other constitutional amendment item that may come up is something called TABOR, T-A-B-O-R. It's an acronym for the Taxpayer Bill of Rights, and it's essentially a very clever name to do serious harm to schools. We in the IFT, I know the CTU, is opposing TABOR. It is a constitutional amendment as it's proposed now, and it would contain a formula that would allow only very modest increases every year in a funding formula. And so it's a very, it's a terrible way to do public policy around education and state service funding. What does it mean for K-12? Well, it would essentially take general state aid and categorical funding and take the current levels, which aren't nearly enough, and lock them in our state constitution. In higher education, right now the state funding share is less than it was in 2002. TABOR would pretty much lock in higher education's unfunded share. For state agencies, it would make them compete each year to save their funding, and they fight against other departments and new programs for proposed services. So I want to remind you, if you have a question as we move along, you can press 9 on your phone to be connected to a staff person, and they can submit your question to a moderator. So what have we been doing? Let's talk about that a little bit. We have been hard at work. The IFT staff, the leadership, the executive board, we've been meeting. The staff has been working all over through this last couple of weeks of vacation time for many of us. The staff has been working on legislative lobbying. We've worked closely with the Illinois Education Association to also come up with a set of proposals that we believe would be helpful to education Trust me, they're very different than what a lot of these reform so-called proposals are. But we've also asked you to do a lot, and you guys have really come through. Right now, as of earlier today, I think, or maybe a few days ago, you guys have sent over 21,000, almost 22,000 messages to your representatives, your legislators, your state senators, and the governor. Over almost 7,000 of them have done that. We have a lot more IFT members. So we need the rest of the IFT to come through and do those. We've done patch-through calls. We've done a lot of personal lobbying. Karen Lewis and I both testified in front of the State House, 2 days of hearings on this. And tomorrow, Karen and I will also testify in the State Senate on these proposed bills. That's, I think, a pretty good summary of where we are in terms of the legislation. Let me just turn it over to Karen for a few minutes to say a few words, Karen, from your seat in the Chicago Teachers Union.
Thanks, Dan. You're right. In my 22 years of teaching in Illinois, I can honestly say I have never seen an attack as wrong-headed as this so-called performance count. If passed, basically it will hurt all public students and teachers and paraprofessionals across the state. I am so grateful that the IFT, the Illinois Education Association, CTU, along with parents, students, teachers, and paraprofessionals, are fighting together to stop this draft bill because we all know that it's flat out wrong for our students. One of the things that I'd like for you to do, in addition to talking to your colleagues tomorrow, is do some community outreach. You can talk about this in your supermarkets. When you go to your doctor's offices, wherever you go, you need to start talking about what it is we do. Because I'm going to tell you someone, everyone loves their teachers. Everyone loves their teachers, but we don't market ourselves. Our enemies do. So it's extraordinarily important that we push our agenda forward. Everyone knows, especially students and parents, that having career teachers can make or break a student's school experience. We are the most devoted, effective, loving teachers who teach our entire lives. And that's something our students need most. And quite frankly, Dan, this bill will drive teachers out of the state of Illinois. And it will turn teaching in Illinois into a low-wage, high-turnover job, and the best teachers will find work elsewhere. So let's just focus, and let's guarantee our students a qualified teacher in front of every classroom on day one. I'd like to limit the number of standardized tests. We can do that so that we're not losing all this instructional time, provide art, music, history, and foreign languages for all students. None of that is in this bill. Nothing that's good for our students is in this bill. So legislatures and media and the business leaders need to start respecting teachers. I heard a wonderful Korean proverb the other day. And one of them said, in terms of the respect they have for teachers, is you don't even step on a teacher's shadow. We have had 30 solid years of teacher bashing and union bashing. And this is our chance now to say, you know what, this is out of control. These people are absolutely out of control. So we're asking you to please call your state representatives and senators tomorrow. Starting tomorrow, flood them with calls. And also, if you have a question for us, press 9, and you will get to a moderator.
Okay, thanks, Karen. So just a couple of things. As Karen said, we're still taking questions, so just press 9, and the moderator will help you. We're willing to take your questions. And also, like Karen said, we need you to call starting tomorrow, but that shouldn't limit you. If you can't call tomorrow, there's no reason that you can't call on Tuesday or Wednesday, and also to get word out and get your union activated at the local level. And if you're a union leader, you really need to be working this week. What are you doing to get your members, get the word out? We have worksite flyers that the IFT is producing statewide for locals. We really need you guys to get those out. If you're a rank and file member, not a union leader, you make sure your union leadership is doing the right thing and they got all that information to you. And really, you have to be an active union member. This is too grave a threat for us to either not take it seriously or figure that someone else will do this for us. Let me just say that tomorrow we are testifying in front of the state Senate on this legislation. Our testimony will be that there should be no change at all to the collective bargaining bill right now, collective bargaining in Illinois education. That the system works for the advantage of students, of parents, of communities, and schools. And the evidence bears that out. We had in our testimony a couple weeks ago, one of our lawyers, Bill Cornfield, who's one of the drafters of the bargaining law, he looked at this legislation and said this would return us not to 1983 or 1975, but to 1930 in Illinois. The weight would be so heavily in favor of school boards that there would be no real way to bargain effectively. So the message that we need you to give to your legislators is this: do not touch collective bargaining for teachers. It works. And we need a tax increase in Illinois. That's something we've long been behind. There are some proposals out there. We want to be able to move that ahead. And TABOR, this Taxpayer Bill of Rights so-called, also doesn't have a place. We are working, the CTU, the IFT, and the IEA are working together to put together some positive proposals ourselves, and you'll be hearing more about that this week, that we can have out there for the state legislature to look at. Again, press 9 for questions. Go to IFT-AFT.org. I also want to make sure that you all are going to IllinoisKidsFirst.org. That's an important group that we've helped put together that is doing a petition drive to get teachers at the table in all reform efforts. So if you haven't done it yet, you should visit Illinois Kids First, all one word, IllinoisKidsFirst.org. And there's a petition there you can sign. There's more information for you there. And let's see if we can go to let's take a question there. Let's do the first one. We'll go to Shirley Thorpe from Local 1211. I think she's there.
Yes, my question is, if you can be dismissed and lose your actual teacher's license after 2 bad evaluations in the past 5 years, would you be able to fight that? And what would the legal cost be for the state of Illinois defending that position?
Well, on the first part of your question is the way they've written this law, it actually curtails a teacher's rights to fight their dismissal. And so there's some real significant protections in Illinois law currently for due process that this would curtail. One of them is a panel that would review your dismissal. It's a 3-person panel, 2 of them appointed by the employer, by the school district. So I don't think anyone feels that this is a fair situation. We can think of all manner of fair ways to handle this, but that's not one of them. The cost to Illinois, I don't know who's to say. I think the real cost would be that you could have excellent teachers caught up in an unfair process, and none of us want that. So thanks for your question. Let's go to that one right there, if we could, Dave. Thank you very much. This is from Paul Engels.
Yep.
Paul?
That's correct.
Paul?
I'd like to know who exactly we should be targeting to deliver this message to. I know we have our local reps, but if there's any other key committee members that we should be delivering this message to.
That's a great question. Thank you. And I'm glad to hear you're targeting your local reps. I mean, my first response was going to be, yes, your local people, because I think it's so effective when, your rep, your senator hears from the teachers in their district. Those are their voters. They're well aware. They're well aware of you that way. So we need that. We've done in our pass-through calls already. We've targeted the education committees and the House and Senate leadership, and we are continuing to do that in some pass-through calls that we've done with community members. We will, at this point, I think, look at our website. If we feel like we need to target some specific legislators at any point during this week, then we'll put that on the website. But I think I would be very happy if everyone just targeted their own legislator right now. Okay. And the governor, by the way, excuse me, that's a good point. The governor, right now if you go to our website, when you put in your zip code, it takes you to your state senator, your state representative, and the governor's office. And that's the call. We're asking everyone to do those 3 calls. And we've had ongoing conversations with the governor, with the Senate and House leadership to make our positions clear. But we need our members to do it too. Karen, do you have one you want to do?
Sure, thanks.
Oh, there's a question for Karen right here. Okay. You want to take that one?
It's Sarah Hannawalt in Park Ridge.
Hi, President Lewis. I have a question that you have here on your urgent call to action letter that you sent out on December 22nd. There's a phrase here that states that it would turn teaching in Illinois into a low-wage job. And I was wondering if you can clarify, does that mean that they're going to try to decrease our salary or put us at a standstill? What exactly does that mean?
Well, basically what it means is that by controlling how many teachers get tenure, they could easily deny tenure without having to explain it to a variety of people. They could also return a tenured teacher back to a probationary status. So what basically happens is that if you're constantly making the hardest to staff classrooms even more difficult by tying everything to one single standard, which is a test score, or for a variety of places, what ends up happening then is people will start leaving because they will feel very discouraged. So that is one of the things that we're really concerned about, because without some of the protections for student advocacy, we're going to have big issues.
So, and I just want to kind of touch base here too. This is Dan Montgomery, President of the IFT, along with Karen Lewis, Vice President of the IFT MCG President. We've got almost 10,000 of you on the phone right now, which is really exciting. This is the first ever IFT Town Hall WebEx. We're live. We're trying to give you up-to-date information, also answer your questions and tell you what we're doing and what we've been up to. If you have a question, press 9, and you'll be connected with a moderator, and we'll try to get to your question. Also, we're asking everybody to stay informed. Go to the IFT website, iftaft.org, or illinoiskidsfirst.org as well, and take legislative action. We have a question from Bernadelle Cyrus, I think. Is that right? Bernadelle, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What's your question, Bernadelle?
Hello?
And, hi, Bernadelle, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, I did. Did she give it to you?
Well, can you
Hello?
speak to us now, and then everyone will be able to hear?
Oh, okay. I wanted to know, will any changes impact our present contract as far as our pension?
Okay, all right. Let's,
we have a...
Well, we cut you off there. We got your question. Sorry about that. But let me say one thing in general about current contracts. Under this proposed bill, in a number of areas, current contract language that is better than what they're proposing in the bill would become null and void.
Null and void.
So, for instance, for layoffs and recalls, many of us have seniority in our contract in various ways. That would be null and void based on how they've got this law proposed. And it would take effect immediately upon the governor's signature.
As far as pensions are concerned, though, no. This bill does not directly deal with pensions. So that would not affect.
All right. Thanks for that question. And we're getting some questions here. While we're doing that, we're just going through and trying to get people on. We'll do that. Keep those questions coming. We've got over 10,000 of you right now, IFT members, and we really appreciate you being on. Let's go to maybe Bartlett, Illinois, Theodora Shaka. Theodora, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, thank you for calling in. Can we have your question?
Yeah, I just want to know what exactly are we supposed to tell our legislators tomorrow when we call?
Great, thank you. That's an excellent question. I think the first thing you tell them is that any change to collective bargaining is off the table, that you will not support them if they vote to make collective bargaining changes to education in Illinois. I think the second thing you want to tell them is listen to the teachers. The IFT, the CTU, the IEA has been working, and we're always there with legislators lobbying, and they need to have us at the table. We were not at the table when they came up with this witch's brew of a bill, but we need to be at the table. So no collective bargaining, teachers need to be at the table, and the third thing would be taxpayer bill of rights. That is not an Illinois kind of thing. It's not something we need in Illinois, and that will do irreparable harm to education funding in Illinois.
And specifically say, we want you to vote no on performance counts on that particular legislation. We want you to vote no. That's extremely important.
Okay, thank you. That was a good question. We have, just again, if you're kind of joining the call late, we're live now with IFT members. Dan Montgomery here, President of the IFT, Karen Lewis, Executive Vice President of the IFT, and CTU President. We're taking your questions. Let's go to that one. Sure. We have a question here from Chicago, Janine Trice, I think.
Yes, it is.
Hi, Janine. Thanks for calling. Can we have your question?
My question is, I'm hearing a lot about the teachers, how this will affect the teachers. What about PSRPs and the other career service staff? How would this affect us as a whole?
Okay, great. Thank you. Good question. Well, if I said teachers, I may have misspoke because the bargaining things, for instance, affect all educational employees. You know, so if they take away collective bargaining, in some districts, those are separate contracts from the teachers in many places, and so they will have the same loss of ability to bargain. So it essentially would strip bargaining rights away from PSRPs, education service personnel, non-K-12 teachers, everybody. Now, the way the bill was originally written, by the way, it was not clear that this would not impact higher ed. There is talk from the reformers that they're going to try to exempt higher ed from that. The evaluation piece about things like if you get a bad evaluation, you can lose your certificate, that doesn't apply to PSRPs. That applies to teachers as far as we can tell. Thanks for that question. Again, we're asking everybody this week to call their legislators, to do that as soon as they can tomorrow, to do it on Tuesday, to continue that process this week, and also to keep checking on the IFT website. Right now we've got almost 12,000 of you on the line. They're really fantastic. We really appreciate your participation. Take the name of the question if we could. We have a question from Caroline Gleckley?
Yes.
Right there.
Hello.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi. My question is, where does Governor Quinn stand on this bill?
That's a great question. His staff that we've been working with hasn't really expressed, I would say, a position on the bill. There's no bill right now in terms of, one hasn't technically been introduced in the House, but we anticipate that it could be as early as tomorrow. The governor's office has indicated they want the process slowed down, that some of these proposals in the bill are worth discussing. They think, I think probably things like streamlined teacher dismissal, things like some of the slightly less controversial. There's some school report card issues in the bill that are a little less controversial. They have expressed support for slowing that down and involving the teachers' unions in discussion of this proposal. So we have been asking the governor to name his own committee, task force to study these proposals. He has not done that yet, and we don't know if that will happen. Remember too that the governor is very interested in the tax the tax increase, and he's trying to do that. We have to confess to you, it's a very messy situation in Springfield right now. It's very hard to know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, we're all worried about, you remember last spring, the pension bill going through in essentially a day. So we're doing everything we can to prevent that from happening again.
We go to Glenn Carbon, Amy Heath.
Hello.
Amy, do you have a question?
Yeah, you had referred to when this bill was created that the IFT was not at the table. Can you tell us some of the legislators that were at the table? Just concerned if any of them were local legislators also.
Sure. Well, I would say I don't know if any of them were at the table when this was written. I kind of doubt it. It seems, as far as we can figure, that this group from outside Illinois called Stand for Children, which is based in Oregon, they poured a lot of money into the election. Just a few weeks before the election, almost $1 million went to both Democrats and a few Republicans. So as far as we can tell, no legislators were at the table writing this. Now, there was a House committee that met a few weeks ago. Karen and I testified in front of that committee along with the EA against this proposal. The two the Democratic chairman was Representative Linda Chappell-Lavia, and the Republican was Roger Eddy. They have signaled an interest in many of the elements of this bill, and we are continuing to talk to them and make proposals to them about ideas we have that we think would be better. Let's go to, sure. We have another caller here. Again, we're asking you guys to call your legislators tomorrow and Tuesday and really talk this up at school. Janelle Hollingshead, is that right?
Yeah. So I just wanted to complete your awareness of what was going on. You want us to call our legislators tomorrow, and you want to tell them to take that collective bargaining should be off the table. You want us to tell them to vote no on performance counts, and you want us to tell them that teachers should be at the table and they're making decisions.
Yes, you're very good. You're an excellent teacher, I can tell. It's very clear. It was very good for you to go back and review everything we've done. Yeah, and I think the first part of your question would have been, how do I contact my legislator? And let me just say about that. If you go to our website, www.ift-aft.org, you will find in the upper right-hand corner a link that says something like IFT Spotlight. And there, if you click on that, it will instantly take you to the legislator access page. You put in your zip code, and it will give you immediately your state senator, your state rep, their office phone numbers, and the governor's phone number. And we will also have talking points on there, too, this week as we go through. We're going to try to do everything we can. We have some things that are going to go out in hard copy to locals through your field service agents. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that this is as easy for you as possible.
And also, Janelle, you could go to ctunet.com, which is a new website that has a lot of information and talking points on it. And as a matter of fact, anyone throughout the state, feel free to come to our website too, ctunet.com.
Okay, great. Thank you. So just to actually, while we're on that, we've got those 3 places you can go.
Yeah. IFT-AFT.org.
Right.
We've got ctunet.com.
Right. And we have IllinoisKidsFirst.org.
IllinoisKidsFirst.org.
Sign that petition, and that's a good one. You can put that on a link to that
on your Facebook
page.
On your Facebook, you can Twitter it. You can do a variety of ways. You guys, we got to use social networking for real now.
And one of the reasons we did that, IllinoisKidsFirst.org, was to respond to this so-called reform movement. They say they stand for children. We know every day of your career you are going into your rooms and your classrooms and your schools and working really hard for kids. And no one is going to take that message away from us. And so we need to engage the public on that as well. And IllinoisKidsFirst.org does that. It's a way for community members, like Karen was saying a while ago, your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, people in your church, in your family, whatever, get them involved and have them sign the petition too. The petition simply says listen to the teachers and get them involved as well.
You want to go to Glenda Chapman at O'Fallon?
Sure, let's do that.
All right, my question is this. If the school did not make adequate yearly progress in the previous year, can a teacher receive an unsatisfactory evaluation and then that lead to dismissal under this proposal, or maybe I have this wrong?
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. The question is really about if your school didn't make AYP, could you get a bad evaluation? As I read what they're proposing, there's nothing, the answer to the question is yes. Now, there's nothing that says just because your school didn't make AYP, you get a bad evaluation. But what it really does, and this is why we're fighting this, one reason we're fighting this, is there is no good uniform. We can't guarantee that evaluations are done correctly throughout the state of Illinois. Okay? And I don't have to tell you guys how differently sometimes, we've all been in schools where teachers who've been there 10 years on their 5th, 6th principal or more, or department chair or whatever, and evaluations aren't fair. And to put someone's job at risk and possibly their career at risk on an unfair evaluation that doesn't have the proper protections for due process is wrong. It's wrong, and it's not going to help kids. So that's one reason we're so opposed to this. We are certainly all for rigorous standards. The IFT, and I know the CTU, is all for having an excellent workforce. We need that, and we're doing everything we can to participate in that process. This bill doesn't do that. This bill is punitive. It doesn't do anything but seek to give our employers almost carte blanche to do whatever they want to teachers.
That's true.
And that's not going to help one kid learn. This is a point we made when I testified at the House hearing a few weeks ago. I think I said there's not one student who will be helped in their learning by punishing teachers this way. We had Diane Ravitch, the famed education historian and policy analyst, former Republican, really. She might still be, I don't know. But she looked at this set of proposals and said this is punitive and won't help one kid. And so that's an important part of this, too. Let's see if we have more questions. If you have a question, you can press 9 on your phone, and that'll take you to a moderator. We're now up to almost 14,000 members, which is really fantastic. It's fun to talk to 14,000 of you. And
you want to go to Andrea Lancer from Chicago?
Sure. Hi, Andrea.
Hello. Hi.
What's your question?
My question was that in the urgent call to action letter, it mentioned that the legislation included language to further curtail the right to strike, and you didn't mention it earlier, and I wonder if that's still part of the proposed legislation.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I think I did talk about it, but earlier in the phone call. So that's one of the things. We've been on the phone now for about 30, almost 40 minutes. So I'll try to circle back and hit some things too that in case people have come on late. But yes, this bill would make it virtually impossible to strike. And I think the first thing to talk about is how it would make it almost impossible to have any kind of real collective bargaining. So the way it would work is if you're bargaining with your district and you can't reach agreement on things after a set of time frames that are very long, 40 days here, 40 days there, the district would have the ability to name a 3-person panel, a fact-finding panel they're called. 2 of them they appoint, 1 of them the union appoints. Then the fact-finding panel would look at all outstanding issues and they make recommendations. Your employer, the school district, could choose your union proposal, the fact-finding panel proposal, or, miracle of miracles, their own proposal. So what would really happen is the school district employers would be able to write the contract and impose it themselves because they would, in the end, choose their own proposal. Now, if you wanted to strike, you could under these conditions. The district ignores you and does nothing for 40 days and chooses no proposals. I guess they just forgot, right? And if they did that, then they could vote, and if 2/3 of your school board voted to allow you to strike, you could strike. So it seems to us that, one, there would be no effective collective bargaining under this law, and two, there would be no teacher strikes allowed. If you did strike, and you weren't allowed to, if you did strike, your union would be decertified. You would lose your union under this law.
Yeah, they would stop dues going to the union. They would completely get rid of the union. You'd have to start from scratch with a brand new union.
So this is just hot off the press. Our crack communications and IT staff have made it even easier to go to the IFT website and take action. So if you go to the IFT website, ift-aft.org, right at the very top of the homepage, it says in green with white letters, "Let your voices be heard." And if you click on that, it'll go right to the page where you can contact your legislators. And so that's really good.
Let's go to Stephanie Bontemps in Swansea.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi. Well, I think you answered my question, actually. I just wanted to know what, you said that you were opposed to all of this, and I am too, obviously. And you had come up with some ideas when you were talking to the legislature, like Mr. Jackson, and I was just wondering what you had told them, and I think you answered some of my questions.
Okay, and you had also asked, I think, what are we proposing? And one of the things happening right now is it's a little unclear exactly where some legislators are, because there's still, the Senate, they reconvene, the House and Senate reconvene, I think House tomorrow, Senate on Tuesday. And so we'll find out a lot more in those 2 days. And it may be that there won't be stomach among some legislators for all of this. But the IFT has continually said that we are always willing to talk about progressive ideas which will help teachers and students learn. And we're willing to have conversations about how to obtain tenure fairly based on evaluation, how to make sure that teacher evaluations are done correctly and done well throughout the state, how if there's ever a layoff situation or a recall that's done fairly and with respect for quality instruction and things like that. So those are conversations we're willing to have. We need to be at the table. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. And
Rosemary Gabriel from Chicago.
Okay. Hi, Rosemary. Are you on?
Hi. Yeah, I am. This seems like a very important proposal important to oppose this proposal because it looks like it's really going to make our lives very difficult as teachers. So I'm wondering, we're getting calls of teachers and we're being alerted to this. Is it just teachers and school staff that can oppose this bill, or can we involve parents? And if we can, how do we go about doing that?
Well, absolutely. You should have parents and friends call also. One of the best ways to do it is if you already have the communications open with your own parents from your own classes. It's always great to inform them as part of that, too. But one of the things that's extraordinarily important is the work you do talking to your friends and neighbors and explaining to them exactly what is going on. And the fact is, this is an outside organization that on its own website, in a letter to its supporters, said, the guy that runs it, I'm not going to even mention his name, said very simply, I am humbled by the fact that a few people have been able to do this extraordinary work. Well, quite frankly, this work isn't extraordinary, and it's extremely negative and terrible for our kids. So talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, talk to your parents, and part of the whole process is getting our message out, which is a positive statement about what we care about with our students. So absolutely get as many people as you can to call.
And again, that's a good opportunity to drive people to the IllinoisKidsFirst.org web page, which is an IFT web page too that we're involved with. Let's sign the petition. Yes, there's a petition on that webpage, and anyone can sign that.
Put it on your Facebook. Put the link to your Facebook. I can't mention that enough.
Right, look, everybody, engage your friends. Have them call their legislators too. It doesn't just have to be teachers. Okay, I think we have another question from Park Forest. Elizabeth McLaughlin.
Yes, I was wondering why this union hasn't, or if they have not formed an evaluation form and brought it up to the state to give it a unified evaluation form.
Hey, great question. So this goes back a little bit to last year in what was called the PARA evaluation, the Performance Evaluation Reform Act. And one thing that act did is it created a committee in the state called PEAC, another acronym, PEAC, Performance Evaluation Advisory Committee. And the IFT has representatives on that, so does Local 1, and we have staff who also work with that very closely, our Ed Issue staff. And that group is trying to come up with a model is in fact coming up with a model evaluation form. And that's still in process. So while we have confidence that group can do good work, one of our problems with this proposal is that work is not in place yet. And so one of the arguments we've made is this new performance evaluation bill was just passed last year. Their work isn't done. And we can't guarantee that we have excellent evaluations in place throughout Illinois. That's the first step before you take teacher evaluation and make them much more powerful in a teacher's career in terms of hiring or firing decisions. We need to have knowledge that we have good evaluation systems in place. All right, let's take that question then.
Yeah, for Linda Manny in Park Forest.
Hi, Linda, do you have a question?
Hello?
Hi.
Yes. I wanted to know how you said raising taxes. How is that going to be effective for education?
Sure, that's a good question. And one of the things the IFT has been concerned about for a long time is school funding statewide. We have a $15 billion deficit in Illinois right now. It's the highest per capita deficit in the nation, worse than California's. School districts are behind in their payments from the state right now to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. That's affecting kids in classrooms and programs every day. The state has a structural deficit, right? Which means that even if the economy turned around tomorrow and was humming, the state would not have enough income to pay its bills. So we need a way for the state to get out from its financial hole, and in that way, the schools can be funded properly. And that's Illinois is still a very, very low-tax state. If you look at the tax proposals from the governor, Illinois would remain a very low-tax state. We're a low-tax state. We have the fewest state employees per capita in the nation. Unfortunately, there's a tax structure in place that doesn't provide enough money for state services and education.
Thank you.
That's what we need.
Let's go to Mary Hutchins in South Beloit.
Hi, Mary.
Hello?
Question?
Yes, I do. I'd like a little bit of clarification about this group from Oregon. Now, originally I thought they were from Oregon, Illinois, but now I understand they're from Oregon State. And how is it that they have become so influential in Illinois teacher politics that this is a small group and how they've developed this base of power?
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, that's a really good question. This is a group called Stand for Children, and I think they are based in Oregon. They've been in some other states, Massachusetts, Tennessee, I know some others. And lucky us, they decided very late in the last election before November to get involved. They kind of purport to be very student-centered, and they even get teachers to join them, actually. They've caused a lot of trouble with teachers' unions. I mean, I think they have a very anti-union agenda. They claim to be pro-student, but if you look at their agenda, sort of like this Waiting for Superman. They were involved in sponsoring that movie in many regards and helping to pay for it. If you look at who gives money to Stand for Children, a lot of wealthy
hedge fund operators,
right.
There's
some big money out there.
Very big money.
Probably do not have, I would say, don't have the interest of Illinois children at heart, but they may have a very anti-union interest at heart. But, they come in late, they have money, and they've hired some powerful lobbyists, and we're having that, battle right now. As we're moving along here, just to remind you, this week we've got a battle in the state legislature. And there's very anti-collective bargaining, anti-teacher legislation possibly going to confront us very early this week. So we need you to call your legislators. Tomorrow, we need you to make sure your colleagues on either side of you in your schools, in your places of work, do the same. And that they make sure that they call their legislators. Go to the IFT-AFT.org, our website, right where it says, right at the top, let your voices be heard. Click on that, and we'll get you your contact information for your legislator. Go to the IllinoisKidsFirst.org website, sign the petition, invite your friends to do the same to become informed. Go to ctu.net, is that right? ctunet.com, ctunet.com too, for more information as well. And it's something that I think is going to develop this week.
And Dan, also there will be talking points. There are talking points for you on each of those websites.
Yeah, let's go to Melissa Teal in O'Fallon, Illinois. Hi, Melissa, are you there?
Hi, I am here. I'm just curious. I've never actually called up to Springfield before to talk to the governor or one of my legislators, and I'm wondering, first of all, who do I speak to? And because I'm assuming there will be a lot of calls and I won't actually be talking to that person. And do I need some kind of rebuttal? Do I need to be really good on my talking points to do this, or do I just say my piece and then they record it and that's it?
Okay, that's a great question. Yeah, I think it's a good question for one reason, because I mean a lot of people have the same experience and question as you just asked there. You know, what do I expect when I call my legislator? Well, usually when you call, you should ask to speak to them and say you're a constituent, you live in their district, you're a teacher or whatever job you have, and quite often you'll have the secretary or the executive assistant or whatever, and you won't be able to speak to them, but then you say, well, I need to leave them a message. And you could ask for them to call you back, but you should say, and here is my message. Say, I am a constituent, I am a teacher or support staff or university or college teacher, or whatever your job is. And say, I am totally against this performance counts bill. I am totally against you doing anything to harm collective bargaining in Illinois. And
can I just say, listen, if you speak from your heart and you know and if you've looked over the websites and looked at the talking points, but honestly, speak from your heart. And that's what representatives will hear. It's extraordinarily important that you're not worried about reading something. Just look at it. This is not good law. It's never going to be good law, and if you speak from your heart, you will be heard.
Yeah, and you can't really do anything wrong.
You really can't on this one. And don't argue with them, and just say, well, thank you very much, but continue to have your friends and families do the same thing.
Yeah, and one of the things legislators, I mean, this kind of work does make a difference. They keep track of how many calls they're getting. What are those calls saying? What are people saying on the issues? And it matters. And we wouldn't ask you to do this if it didn't matter. It does matter, and we need you to do it. It doesn't take. It should really take about a minute or two of your time to make a call like this. And it's all about our collective strength in the union. And if we do this collectively, got almost 100,000. We've got 100,000 IFT members, and we need everybody to do it. If you're part-time, if you're full-time, if you're a retiree, if you're a first-year person, if you've been here for 25 years, we need everybody's involvement.
Thank you. Can we go to Fabiola York in Fox Lake?
Hello?
Fabiola.
Yes. Okay, what I wanted to know was, I was listening and they were talking about if you had 2 bad evaluations, you're no longer a teacher. Does that mean if you get a bad evaluation at one employer, 2 bad evaluations, and you go to another one, does that mean they can't hire you or you can't get another job? Basically, you're no longer a teacher?
Those evaluations actually would follow you from district to district, as a matter of fact. So if you got a bad evaluation in one district and went somewhere else and got another one, absolutely. And then after that, they basically would have a hearing. There's a lot of stuff that's in between there, But basically, yes, you would be eligible to lose your certificate.
Yeah, that's one of the really disturbing things about this bill is that if you got a bad evaluation, it would follow you to a different district. And again, the bill is not final, but that's what it seems to be proposing right now. We've had over 14,000 IFT members on so far, and we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. There's a lot of people who have questions, and there's no way we can get to all the questions. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left, I think. But let me tell you this: all your questions, we will see them, even if we didn't have you on the air today. The IFT leadership and staff, we will see your questions. And we're going to do everything we can to address information and get information out there. Again, I want to just kind of hit some major points again before we leave. That is that this bill could move quickly this week. We're not exactly sure what form it will take or how fast. So that's one reason we need you to act tomorrow. We need you to go to the IFT website, ift-aft.org, and let your voices be heard. Click on that link. It will take you to the phone numbers for your state representative, your state senator, and the governor's office. Make those calls. Tell them no to changes to collective bargaining. Tell them no to this performance counts bill. Tell them to listen to the IFT, to teachers, and have us at the table.
And Dan, can I just say one thing too to add to this? It is important that your legislators hear from you on a regular basis, not just when we're in a time of crisis like we are now, but get in the habit of calling your legislators and holding them accountable.
Yeah, I'm going to do the website again. Some of you are asking to have the website addresses again. We're going to give them all right now. The first one is the IFT website. It's www.ift-aft.org. IFT-aft.org. And on that website, there's lots of information plus a way to click and find out how to get connected to your legislators and make those phone calls. The other one is ctunet.com. That's the Chicago Teachers Union net with all sorts of good information as well. And anyone can go to that one, not just Chicago Teachers Union members. And also the IllinoisKidsFirst.org. That's www.illinoiskids, K-I-D-S, first, F-I-R-S-T, all one word, IllinoisKidsFirst.org. And that's a great website that the IFT has helped put together that has a petition on it, has more information. There's a lot of good information on it.
Sign the petition and link it to your Facebook and Twitter.
Exactly. I was just going to say that Facebook page, you can do the same through the IFT website and the IFT Facebook page. Absolutely. Go to that. Let's see. I think we can take one last one. Maybe,
I don't know, Tim.
Do we have time? I don't know. One more. Jennifer Downing, are you still out there, Jennifer? We'll take one more call, maybe. Hi, Jennifer. Are you there? Hi, Jennifer.
Yes,
are you there? Rick, do you have a question for us?
The question I had was, where exactly would I go to actually read the reform bill and see all the different points that are included in the reform bill myself, so that I know exactly how things are outlined and, all the kind of the ins and outs of it?
That's a good question. The bill actually has not been introduced yet. It was concocted by the so-called reformers on their own, and it's written. We've seen a draft, so-called, of it, and it's written like legal language, but it hasn't been introduced in the State House yet. So, however, go to our website because we're going to keep putting updates on there. The minute that gets, or some version of it, would get introduced into the state, either House or Senate, we would definitely have legislative links to that with all the information you're looking for. So really, it's go to the IFT-AFT.org website, the IFT webpage for that.
Thank you very much. This has been wonderful. We'd like to thank everybody across the state for participating in this town hall. I hope it'll be the first of many, and I'm looking forward to doing this over and over and over again as soon as we can, but we want you to be sure that you know that Dan and I are working tirelessly. And you guys, visit your legislators, call them, talk to them, but talk to your parents, talk to your community members. This is all of us together in on this.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sharon. It was great, and we expect to do more of these. I do want to say that Karen and I and Marsha Boone, the Secretary and Treasurer, and all the IFT Executive Board is working very hard, along with all the IFT staff. I want to quickly thank Steve Preckwinkle, Dave Richmond, Dave Comerford, Dave Pitchley. Lots of Dave.
Dave Beck.
Dave Beck, Tom McLaughlin, Lisa Uphoff, John Little, Sharon Teefee, Terry Towler, anyone else. I think that's all of the staff who helped make this possible. And thank you to you. It's tough. We know it can be depressing to think about, but think about this. There's 100,000 of us. There's another like amount in the IEA. A lot of teachers and support staff and professionals in Illinois who have a voice. We just have to make that voice be heard. So go to www.ift-aft.org for information, and make sure you make those calls tomorrow. We'll be here in Springfield working hard. We'll do everything we can to keep you informed. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Good night.
Goodbye.